Welcome to Dripping Stone Podcast, the podcast where two friends raise a glass and have a conversation. I'm Nick.
I'm Kyle.
Kyle.
Hey, man.
How's it going?
It's going pretty good.
Yeah. What you thinking about?
You sound like my wife.
Really?
Man, that's always like a loaded question. What are you thinking about?
I don't. Never mind. Let's walk that back.
Whiskey.
Cheese. Thinking about cheese.
Thinking about toenails. They're just weird.
They keep
Why
growing.
do we have them?
I keep clipping them. They keep growing.
Why do they keep growing?
This episode's off the rails, and we have only started. How's it going?
It's good, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was your holiday?
I don't know. Hadn't had it yet.
I mean, in terms of recording, we haven't had it, but
Right. I don't want to say it was good because, like, man, it might go off the rails, and like everybody that was there knows it did, and then like they listen to this episode, and I'm like, he's full of shit.
It's actually the worst. It's actually the worst time of my life.
That was actually awful. Like there was nothing good about that.
Okay, listen though. Knowing you, knowing your family, knowing your wife, it's not going to go off the rails. It's going to go really well. Everything's going to be smooth.
Disagree. I think it'll go off the rails because it always does. But somehow we, tie it all together and get through it.
Let me ask you this. Does anybody else knows it goes off the rails? Or is it just you?
No.
Oh, okay.
Bro, there was a year where like we had the turkey in the oven for like 4 hours with
I remember,
the oven not on.
I was at this year.
So, yeah,
that was
like people know.
That was at the old house.
Yeah.
And we're all like...
People are aware. What are they doing?
Do we just order a pizza?
Yeah, why are they still in the... Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, that was... And I remember that year very distinctly.
Same.
That might have been our first, year going to Thanksgiving with you guys.
Yeah.
And then I remember at one point the whole house filling with smoke. I think that was that same year.
Who knows? Yeah, and here you are asking.
That's a good point. Okay.
Your stuff always goes so well.
So everybody knows.
What are you talking about?
Everybody knows we record ahead of time. So I was just, I was thinking like in terms of recording ahead of time, but in hindsight, I'm going to say everything went well. That's what I'm trying to say.
I got you.
It went well.
I like your positivity.
Thank you. It's my optimism,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I try to be a realist in that sense, and I'm not gonna fool you guys because y'all know we record this stuff early.
That's
so
true.
There's no need to be like, hey, how was your holiday? They haven't had it yet.
You ruined my intro, Kyle. Like I even wrote it out.
Did you?
No.
That's in the script?
No.
How was your holiday? Kyle replies, it was amazing. It was so grateful.
I wrote it in orange pen, which means it's legit.
We all enjoyed our sharing of thanks.
We've done that?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. I was like, I don't think we've ever done that. If we did, I checked out very clearly.
Oh, that's where I'm going to start going when you ask how was something that we haven't had yet.
Okay.
I'm going to go into a lot of like really fine details.
Do you want me to do that whole thing again?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now that you've ruined the intro, Kyle.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's fine. I need a drink.
All right.
Okay. What do you want to drink?
I have a bottle that we've never had anything from this distillery, but it's a rather popular one.
Oh.
Just our first time dipping into old Abelour.
Abelour?
Abelour?
You know, it's Scottish, so it's got to be pronounced.
Yeah, who knows?
Give me your Sean Connery.
Abelour.
That's not it.
Abelour.
Nope.
Abelour.
That's probably close enough.
Abelour.
It's probably going to be...
How did I say it the first time?
I don't know.
Okay. Abelour.
Sure.
But this is not just their regular Abelour. This is A'bunadh. We should take a class in Gaelic or something.
We really should. Because
instead of just butchering it
all
the time.
I think that Duolingo has Gaelic.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, I think so. We should probably do that.
Yeah, that might be fun.
we drink enough Bunnahaven and now the Abelour to probably need it. Stay right there.
Yeah, the stay right there. Stay right there.
And the toe
touch.
Yeah. Anyway, so what you're saying is we're drinking scotch.
We are drinking scotch. What makes this a really fun bottle? One, it's cask strength. We're coming in hot at 61.2%. So 122.4.
Oh,
61.2.
122.4. Yeah.
122.4.
That was quick math.
Well, it's on the bottle.
Oh, okay.
I didn't really have to do anything. But it is also matured in Spanish Oloroso sherry butts.
Ooh.
This is it was a bottle that I've kind of had my eye on.
Yeah.
Been wanting to try it. Heard a lot of really good things. Haven't had a whole lot of sherry influenced things.
You've probably had more than you know.
Well, I mean like heavily.
Okay. Yeah.
And like this has the
like they
reputation
that
it's heavily sherried.
Yeah, and why I say that though is because like in getting more into Scotch as we've already talked about a lot here lately.
Right.
A lot of Scotches will use...
It's the holidays, man.
Well, it's
what we do.
Exactly. A lot of Scotches will use in their blends some sherry rested distillates.
Yep.
So even if they don't like market it that way, a lot of them will use some sort of like version of rested sherry stuff. Like I think Macallan does this all the time. Dalmore does it. Like, the big names also.
Sure. And
they just assume that that that's the case.
Right.
But what's interesting is that they're marketing like we are doing this.
Yeah. Heavily.
Can we talk about that bottle real quick?
Yeah.
That is a unique bottle.
It is a very unique bottle. Little squatty.
Yeah, I've had nothing by Abelour at all.
Okay.
Like I've never had it. So I've never seen the bottle. Like I've always seen they come in the as most scotches here in America do, they come in the
sleeve.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've never opened one for whatever reason, but that is a interesting bottle.
Yeah. Yeah. Quite the girthy top.
The neck on that thing's thick.
Yeah.
That is a big cork too. Like, not as big as a.
Did you open it?
I did.
The cork is like not huge.
Oh.
I feel like the old granddad.
Yeah,
I think might be
a big cork.
A little bit wider cork. Cork's almost kind of normal.
I guess I'm saying like the top.
But yeah, the top itself, like the.
Yeah, the wood or whatever that dipped in waxes.
Yep.
Yeah.
That wood tip.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
But yeah, no. Opened this not that long ago.
Yeah.
Did a fresh crack.
Ooh. On Patreon?
I did.
Yeah.
It's on there.
Have the patrons already seen it?
Probably. I'd have to look. It's been a hot minute, dude.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, been wanting to try this one. Got it. Pulled the trigger on it.
Is it a difficult bottle to find?
I don't really know how difficult it is. I haven't seen it too many, but like that, it's also one that like I became aware of it, honestly, and it really became like a fascination of wanting to try within the past 3 months or so.
Oh, okay.
So it's not a bottle that I've been really
not
acutely
in your
aware
purview.
of. Yeah,
Gotcha,
over the years.
Yeah.
Just been like recently.
I'll say this. I've seen the Abelour brand a bunch of times.
Sure, that one's not hard to.
No, like just regular. But I also haven't looked past like what else do you have? Do I need to know anything about this?
Sure. And it's like whatever's on your mind at the moment.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. Like
you're always looking for something else.
Exactly.
Abelour's not standing out in my head right now, so I look past it. Sure.
Right.
So I don't know how many times. I might have seen it a lot and just didn't know.
What region is this from?
It's a Speyside.
Ooh. Do you know what a Speyside Scotch means?
It means it's from Speyside.
That is correct. Well, it's from the region of the River Spey.
There you go.
And it's beside it. Hence, Speyside.
Side of Spey.
Yeah, exactly.
Speyside. Where's that run?
In Scotland. It's not quite as far north as like Highland, but it's on the mid-eastern part of Scotland. Are you looking at my Scottish geography, if I know it?
Oh, no, I'm just curious myself.
Oh, I need you to test me, though.
How do you want me to test you?
Is it in the middle eastern part of Scotland?
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Because a couple episodes ago, I mentioned, I think I said something about an Ardbeg being an Orcadian Scotch, and it's not. It's Islay.
No, I think it was the Highland.
Oh, it's the other way around?
Oh, no, I mean, I think it was the Highland Park.
Oh, which is an Orcadian Scotch, but I think I called it an Islay or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, Speyside is completely surrounded by the Highlands.
Right.
It's on like the centrally located, but
on the
eastern coast. I don't know.
Yeah.
UK's a weird place. Cool.
Yeah. Let's get into it.
Any bottle words?
Oh my God, there's a bottle novel in the back of that
we got a lot
canister.
of good stuff. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Speyside single malt Scotch whiskey. A'bunadh was born in the Speyside village of Abelour, made with local spring water from the Ben Rhines and barley, now locally sourced from the fields near our distillery.
Beautiful.
Let the sherry casks add depth.
Yeah.
We hand-pick Spanish sherry casks, filling them with whiskey for the first time. This means their intense flavors infuse A'bunadh as the years pass.
Lovely.
Let the old ways live on.
Do it.
A'bunadh means the original in Gaelic.
Ooh.
Because we make every bottle as we would have done 100 years ago, in batches with no chill filtering.
Oh.
A'bunadh is as close as you can get to tasting a dram at original cask strength at our distillery.
Cool.
Just as our founder, James Fleming, would have done in 1879. Then, as now, the truth is in the tasting.
Oh, you know what I did not hear?
What's that?
I did not hear an age statement.
Don't see one.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting for scotches because, like, a lot of scotches tend to like to put that age statement.
Yep, I don't see it anywhere.
All right, not a bad thing by any means.
But yeah, then it gives you like some tasting notes and stuff.
Okay, now let's do our own tasting notes.
Yep. Shall we?
Absolutely. Lead the way, sir. Ooh. You know what? This has a lot of color for a Scotch.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite dark.
So this goes back to my statement a couple episodes ago about peaty Scotches being way light, even like a peaty 16-year-old Scotch. I wonder if that's the kind of a defining marker. You have Scotches that are heavily peated that tend to be really light in color, and this is obviously it's aged on an Oloroso sherry cask, so theoretically that's going to impart way more color.
Yeah, I mean, sherry is a fortified wine,
right?
So yeah, I mean, I would expect that to definitely kind of throw some added color into it. It has kind of a red tint to it.
It does.
I would even say like it's not.
Is that because of the burgundy top though?
I mean, it definitely could be, but like it's just influencing me in thinking that it has like a reddish tint to it.
I mean, in the glass, I wouldn't go so far as to say red, but it is bourbon dark.
Yeah,
like which is different than the majority of Scotches.
Right. A little sniffing.
Little sniffing. Ooh. What did you say this proof was? 122.4?
You got it.
The reason I ask that is because the nose does not say that at all. Like, there's some proof there.
Right.
But it does not say, like, this is a very high proof for a Scotch.
Yeah. Well, shit. I mean, 122.
For anything.
Yeah, that's just high.
Wow. But, like, I mean, you got a little bit of, like, a twing going on. Not nearly as much as I would expect for something this high.
Yeah.
Proof.
I have to take, like, a really deep breath before it ever, like, kind of, like, makes my eye water.
But, like, sweet as all hell, man.
Yeah.
Ooh.
But, like, fruit sweet.
Yeah.
Not, like
bouquet.
caramel or sugar.
Yeah.
Just fruit.
Like, and a bunch of, like, mixed fruit. Like, I can't, like, pick out, but, like, I feel like there's, like, some sort of dark fruit. Yeah, but, like, mixed.
Like, I mean, knowing that it's a single malt Scotch that's been aged in sherry.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely get both of those things. I get the Scotch.
Yes.
I get the sherry.
Yes.
It's very noticeable.
Yeah.
That they're there.
That's super interesting. Like, you can very easily define, like, here is a Scotch distillate, and they're like, oh, here's all the sherry notes that they're putting in there.
Right.
Wow.
You could almost like I would almost think it's a blend.
Yeah.
That's
really interesting. And what I mean by that, like, or what I think we mean by that is you're getting the quintessential kind of Scotch, rounded, warm, malted barley notes that impart that, like, really nice, even keel sweetness. But then there's, like, a depth of sweet that we were getting from that Oloroso sherry cask. It's like, or butts that, like, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fun to me that they're taking just the ends of sherry casks. So, like, I'm assuming that the cask that they're using is an American oak cask, probably, second fill bourbon cask or something of that nature. But then they're putting the sherry ends on the cask.
Right. Let's get, like, milk chocolate.
Yeah. I'm excited for this.
Just a touch of raisin.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I would expect that out of something with the sherry notes there.
Yep.
All right. Can I say it?
Go for it.
Enough sniffing. Time for sipping.
A little spitting.
I found the proof, bud. There it is. Man, where it is lacking the proof on the nose, it is not on the palate. Like, you get proof.
Yeah.
Whew. But that is nice. Wakes up everything.
I get a fruit salad. like a almost like a what's that fucking holiday cake? The fruit cake. Like a fruit cake. Like there's some of those, like that the barley comes through in bready kind of notes.
Yep.
But there's just so much of, like, a fruity, almost like a fruit glaze, like glazed fruits.
Yes. When someone says fruit cake, like, I automatically go to that, like, stuff that's just too much. But, like, a good fruit cake where you get those, like, really beautiful, dark, super well-rounded, like, brown sugary notes, and then those, like, spikes of fruity, like, influences, like,
right.
That's what I think of. Like, something that's done well.
Yeah, I don't mean it as like the shit that you buy, like, at the gas station. Fruitcake. Yeah, that's good shit.
What'd you get? God, another fruitcake? No, like, this is a fruitcake you want to eat. You want to eat. See, you said fruit salad at first, and I think that I'm right there. It's fruit salad, like somebody has mixed or chopped up their own fruit and has let it, kind of meld together. Not like fruit salad you, like, out of a can. I'm saying, like, somebody has chopped these strawberries, has, like, put these bananas in there, and you let a good fruit salad, to me, needs to sit a minute so that the flavors kind of combine. And that's what I'm getting out of this. There are some like cherry notes. There are some strawberry notes. There's like, I would even go so far as to say some banana-y notes in there as well. And then you get like, it's all held up to me by this beautiful, like dark fruit wine undertone that is like, just rounds everything out.
Yeah. Like there's such a richness to it. Like it's quite thick.
Perfect description. Yeah. Rich.
But like the mouthfeel is quite thick.
Yep.
And so, I mean, it just lingers, but it's bright at the same time.
I get a whole lot of barrel too. Like a whole lot of oaky, which I didn't expect. Because like knowing that this is the sherry butts, you know, like I would feel that would push forward, but I'm getting like just
on the finish, it's like it's prominently
yeah. I would even go to say like
finish.
it's more barrely than some bourbons I've had.
Yeah,
and I love that. Like that is fantastic.
Yeah, super different than like anything that I've ever had.
Really, truly is. If I had to find a negative here, I think it might be a little on that sweet side.
I can see that for you.
Yeah. Like, I think the proof does cut that sweet just enough, but to me, it is a dessert.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely
whiskey for sure.
In that realm of, you know, it definitely has like the elements of like a cognac,
mm-hmm.
kind of the sweetness to it. And I think, too,
especially
the fact that it ends on the oak so prominently, too.
Yep.
If it still ended and you still felt like that sweetness kind of clinging, I think that would be a little too much. But I think the proof and the oak...
That's a good point.
Like right away.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Keep it from becoming too much.
Yeah, because you get sweet, oak, and then like the proof is just kind of like guiding you along that. That's a perfect way to describe it. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just so different from anything else that I can think of.
Oh yeah.
That it's so unique. Yeah, no, I love it. Like I think it's really good. And
I think
really
it is
different.
I agree too. I'm gonna go find a bottle.
Yeah.
Because that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, and it's that kind of a thing of finding something that's that different. That, you know, you think, oh, yeah, no, that fits perfectly in the lineup of, like, all the different things. You know, I think we were talking about it last week with bourbon being so confined that it is kind of difficult to find one that sets itself apart. It can definitely happen. You can do it. But it just, they're all so kind of similar and, like, working around the same thing.
Exactly.
Where this is so different, but still... a Scotch single malt whiskey, but it is so unique and different. Like it definitely makes me want to like go out and find other sherried whiskeys.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to give this to me and say like, this is a quintessential Scotch, I would say like, no, it's not quintessential Scotch. There's definitely something interesting going on here. But that to me is what makes Scotch, like you just said, interesting, is that you can do so much with it. Or not that you can't do so much with bourbon, but like I guess that Scotch has been doing it for so long that like this is kind of what Scotch is right now, is like they want to do these interesting things. They're interested in more exploration that I would love to see out of bourbon. I think we talked about this last week a little bit too. Like you're going to start to see that.
Yeah.
This is what fascinates me about the world of Scotch whiskey as a whole.
Right. And I think, Scotch has been around and been beloved for so long. And like with bourbon coming into this newfound joy that everybody's having for it.
Right.
Hopefully that'll inspire, some cool things like that.
Right. Well, and I think the point being too, like you can find, if you want like the best representation of like just Scotch, and I say that like not trying to be, demeaning in any way, but like you want just Scotch, you can absolutely find it. Mm-hmm. You can get your regular Macallans. You can get those kinds of just, this is Scotch.
That baseline.
Yeah, exactly.
Statement.
Your Glenfiddich, your Glenmorangie, like you can find those things.
Right.
And that's great. And you can do the same with bourbon. You can get your Jim Beams. You can get your regular Buffalo Traces. You can find that kind of stuff.
Right.
But then like...
yeah, so many great examples of
absolutely.
like just what is a great bourbon. Right. Yeah, there's tons of it.
Exactly. And then the Scotch world to me has like just exploded that out, and like you want the regular thing, here it is. Here's your Brook Lottie, your classic Lottie. Yeah. Boom, Scotch. But if you want some other stuff, here's Black Art. There you go.
Right.
Good luck, bud. That kind of thing. Or
that's what your wallet says.
Good luck, bud. Or you want your Octomore, and here it is.
Right.
You know what I mean? So. Got a question.
Okay.
Now that we have a phenomenal drink, Kyle.
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about this week?
You know what I did last night?
What'd you do last night?
Had to do a thing last night in preparation for this. This was a thing that I've had several people talk to me about. You need to do this. You need to watch this. And just finally, just now got around to doing it. We've mentioned it previously on the podcast.
We have.
Last night, I watched the last 2 episodes of Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am proud of you and happy for you.
Yeah. Yep. Through those 2 seasons in, probably took me like a month to get it all in.
I got it.
I actually started it in Chicago.
Oh.
Watched the first 2 episodes there.
Yeah.
And thought I was going to be able to watch the whole thing up there, and then the situation at the Airbnb didn't allow that. So got home, got my Apple subscription, and got it done.
Yeah. And
it's amazing. It's a really good series. The comedy is like just right.
yeah.
And the fact that it's like, I mean, here in our household, we're very much Anglophiles.
Sure.
We enjoy the English culture.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's based in London, and or not in London, but around London.
Yeah.
It's so nice in that way of like you pick up some of those just quirky English things,
Sure.
but clearly in an American based production.
Right.
Oh man, it's just so good.
Yeah. You know what? Like,
I've loved Sudeikis for a long time.
Yes.
So to see him actually like take on a project like this is super like satisfying.
Yeah, it is. It's satisfying to see like a guy who, I mean, got I think his chops either SNL or Second City. Like I mean, they all kind of like in that realm. I know that he was on SNL, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was on SNL for a long time.
I thought so.
But was never like a highlighted character.
He was a person that was on SNL.
Yeah.
But to see like
I can't, honestly, off the top of my head, I can't think of any major skits that he did. He was always like in a scene.
Yeah.
But it was rarely ever around him. Like
Correct.
I remember like
he wasn't a
his
Fallon
beatboxing
or
dancing dude
Yeah.
on that one thing where it was like Kenan Thompson's like this crazy like talk show dude that dances like every few minutes.
Yeah.
And then Sudeikis comes out and does this like crazy like break dancing in like a jumpsuit, tracksuit.
It's been really cool to see like his career and how you have this guy who like you found your niche and like you had success with it.
Yeah.
And sure, stars align, could be just, right place, right time, but like it is great in all the right ways. It's just cheesy enough.
Right.
It's got enough morality and lessons. Like the comedy is such that like, you got that fish out of water kind of comedic aspect, and the people like, poor American kind of thing. And he's like, I'm just trying to figure shit out. It's so good.
Yeah.
Do you know the genesis of it?
Mm-mm.
So it was a commercial associated with, I think it might have been Game Day or college football in some way. And it basically like introduced this character. And I'm pretty sure it was for ESPN of like, this is Ted Lasso. He was an American college football coach, but now he's coaching soccer. So no, you know what? Now that I think about it, I think it was for the Premier League. It was a Premier League thing. And they're just kind of like making fun of it, making light of it. And it was originally like just a skit, minute and a half skit commercial kind of thing. Just as like a funny way of like, hey, there are Americans that like this too, and here you go.
Right.
And since then, what I saw an interview with him, I think he was on, I think he was with Fallon maybe, but he was talking about like, since that, I had this idea of like, let's make this a thing. Like, why is this not a thing?
Right.
It would be a funny fish out of water, stranger comes to town type story. And it works. The lighting in here just changed. That was kind of weird. But I think it's the sun. It's not our lights. So he was like, I think this is going to be an interesting story. Let's do this. And it was kind of shelved for something like 5 to 7 years. Like it was that original idea to like inception of the show was quite some time.
Right.
From what I understand, like he personally shopped it around to a lot of different places, and finally Apple was like, yeah, like let's do it. Like this sounds cool. Like let's make it happen.
Right.
And then it happened.
And they did it.
And they won like an insane amount of Emmys for it the first season. And then the second season won another insane amount of Emmys.
Right.
What's interesting to me is a lot of times when you get a show that does that well on a critical level, it doesn't normally do that well on a fan level. Like there seems to be some sort of disconnect. You see this with like the films. A lot of films that win a bunch of awards tend not to be like super fan favorite films. you just kind of know like this is Oscar baity type of film.
Right.
Here you have something that like fans love, people love, and has just won a shit ton of awards.
I mean, I feel like for whatever reason, the Emmys are a little different in that way. I feel like television's a little bit different. Like, I mean, you know, if I think back, like Friends used to win stuff.
Sure.
Like Will and Grace used to win a lot of stuff. Like the West Wing used to win a lot of stuff.
So you think it's more fan based?
I feel like the Emmy specifically when you're talking about like TV awards, like Maisel wins a bunch of stuff all the time. Like I feel like they are for whatever reason a little bit more in sync with what the fans are saying. Like whereas in cinema specifically, it looks at itself as such a different art form.
True.
That it's a little different in that aspect.
Either way, this is a shit ton of awards.
Yeah. It
and rightly so.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Like it's so well done. But I totally agree. Like it kind of surprises me in a way that it did win so much, just because like it has like a very kind of almost like 90s like TGIF kind of feel to it.
It really
of, like
does.
The wholesomeness aspect of it. But then it can get very dark and very, you know, psychologically challenging in some of the things that they address. And then it can also get very kind of not quite R-rated, but like definitely adult themes.
Oh, for sure.
You know, and so it definitely casts a really large array of things that it can talk about and deal with.
Maybe that's why it does so well, is like the net that this is working within.
Right.
Like that net that it casts, like you mentioned.
Right.
You know, it's so wide that like is bringing in so many people.
Right. For sure.
And I think that's part and parcel, not only because of the central character, Ted Lasso, but also like you have this cast of misfits that like just works so well.
Right.
Before we go further, before we start to spoil some things, let's take a step back and let's like, what is the basic story of Ted Lasso? I know we've kind of talked a little bit about it, but what is the basic story?
Basic story: college football coach in America from Kansas is hired on to coach a Premier League soccer team in the UK.
So a football coach is hired to coach football.
Yes.
But not the same football.
Got it. And it's all in an effort to sabotage the club.
Correct.
In the UK, because the now owner got the club in a divorce from her ex-husband. And so and the club meant so much to him that she's trying to do everything she can to ruin it. So it's very much a major league type scenario.
Correct.
Another great sports
movie
where the disgruntled ex-wife is trying to destroy the club.
Right.
Actually, I don't know if that was the case in Major League. I know she was trying to move the team to Miami.
Yeah, there's some like
that was
lines
her big
along
thing.
that.
I don't know if she was like an ex-wife, but anyway. So yeah, like the first season very much gave me like Major League vibes of you're trying to bring in all of these riffraffs to try to ruin the club,
right?
But that certain set of chemistry that you got together ended up making this great thing.
Yeah. Okay, so now I think we can spoil things.
Okay.
So here on out, if you haven't watched Ted Lasso, continue to listen to the episode.
Yeah.
But if you haven't watched
and
Ted
then
Lasso,
go watch Ted Lasso.
Right, exactly. If you haven't watched it, you need to go watch it because it's great. And honestly, it's one of those things that like everyone, yourself included, that I've recommended it to, afterwards has loved it.
Yeah.
Like I haven't heard anyone like, oh, that
it's
sucked.
all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one has said it sucked. No one has said it's all right. Everyone else has said like, no, that was really good. And some people are like, that might have been the best thing I've seen on TV in a while.
Well, that, and it's refreshing that it's only around 30 minutes an episode.
Exactly.
They're
It's
not
quick.
like the big long ones. And it's only 12 episodes a season.
Yep.
So it's compact.
Yep.
It's easy watching.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So for me, I watched Ted Lasso over the course of like maybe a week. And at first I fell in love with it, honestly, like episode 1.
Same, yeah.
Carol was a little more reticent. It took her about 4 episodes before she was like, okay, I actually care, which I completely understand.
Right.
Because, you know, sitcoms, which is what this is at heart, sometimes are a little bit like, okay, how much do I want to get involved? Like, how much do I care about these people?
Right.
But I think it's a testament to the eponymous character, Ted Lasso, that like he gets you to love this character. Jason Sudeikis gets you to love this character. And that's exactly it. Like you mentioned that it does get dark. That second season starts to deal with a lot of really like human human things.
Yeah. Like his big struggle in the first season is that he's going through a divorce. And that's part of the reason why he's in the UK, why he accepted the position, was to give his wife some space.
Correct.
They were going to work through some stuff, and hopefully this would help them kind of reconnect in a strange way, you know, giving them space. And hopefully, like, you know, once it was all said and done, they'd get back together and be great.
Right.
And, you know, we've mentioned it in the other episode about optimism, of like, that's just Ted's constant focus, is being optimistic. Everything's going to work out. It's going to be great, you know, and just go at everything positively, and it'll hopefully all work out.
Right.
And
Which I want to come back to in terms of like toxic optimism. I want to come back to that eventually.
Okay.
Okay.
That's the crux of season 1.
Mm-hmm.
And season 1 ends with the team losing enough matches that they get
Relegated.
Yeah,
which is in English football, the tier system, I think, is super cool. I wish we kind of did that here, but the tier system is such that you can, as a team, go from the Premier League, which is the top of all of the tiers, and drop to a lower league, which means theoretically less money, less people, less of everything.
Right.
But you can also go up too.
Right. Yeah, which happens in season 2.
Correct. So the team is relegated, and also at the end of season 1, doesn't the wife ask for a divorce?
Yeah, I don't know if it happens at the very end. No, because it's kind of something more that they kind of, because she comes to visit at one point.
Yeah.
And on that visit, she gives him the papers of like, I need you to sign these and get these back to me.
Right.
But it is something like throughout the season that he's kind of dealing with and having issues with, and he finally does it. You know, accepts it. And
but what to me is interesting about that plot line is that they deal with it in a way that like a individual would deal with it. In that, like, this is such a present thing. It's such a thing that's at the forefront of clearly this character's mind. So it's also a thing that's at the forefront of us as viewers, but it's not really talked about. Or when it is talked about, it's kind of dealt with in like a kind of way. Not like something that like we just have to do. So then Ted makes a decision, ultimately like, I just got to get this done.
right.
And I think that is really interesting. And that's how this whole series deals with things. It's like, these issues are issues that we need to take care of, the forefront of our perspectives, but yet we're not going to talk about it, or we're not going to deal with it right away. And yet the character tends to like confront things in the ways that we would hope people would confront them, in terms of like that optimistic kind of perspective of like, nope, we got to deal with it. You know, you've got a problem. The best way to deal with the problem is to deal with the problem and like, let's confront it.
Right.
Which I think is refreshing, because so often you have characters and people like the problem just is there and is never dealt with.
Yeah, I mean, I think the greatest like takeaway for me for the story as a whole, is the idea that while you might be great in this aspect, like, one, self-care is extraordinarily important, but like it's also understanding your own faults and not pushing them aside and trying to bottle those up.
Right.
It's such an important thing that, like, you know, Ted is such a great coach, and not just a coach of a sport, but just like a coach that he can see what other people need.
Exactly.
And give them and prod them and point them in a way that is going to help them achieve their goals.
Yep.
Which is what a great coach is. It's not necessarily just like, yeah, I can teach you to hit the ball or do whatever within the game. It's actually like, I can give you the perspective to make you a better person and help you grow.
And he says this to another character, to Trent Grimm, the Independent. Right. He says this to him. He's like, I'm not really interested in winning. Like, I don't define success by wins and losses.
Right.
I want to give these young men tools to engage in the world, essentially. Like, I'm not interested in whether they all win. I'm interested in like whether they win at life. He doesn't say it that way, but that's kind of what he means.
Right. Yeah. He points out very early on that like he doesn't know anything about soccer.
Right.
Like, he's not sure why he's here, but he knows how to coach.
Correct.
And so
he knows people.
Yeah. So he's going to do what he can to like help the individuals, help form a team.
Right.
And hopefully that will help create success for everybody.
And what I love about that first season is that it does not go well. Like, there are times, they have some successes, but he's met with such obstacles in terms of like players who he's trying to do this for, and there's so many things of like push back against that.
Right.
And like you as a viewer see the optimism, you as a viewer see the potentiality that he's trying to push forward, but there's so much of a kind of a brick wall of like, nope, this is how we do it. This is how it's done. We're not changing this. And yet then you start to see like the things that he's doing actually working.
Yeah. Yeah. That first season, Ted is obviously the protagonist, and he's got a kind of a rogues gallery of antagonists in that first season.
Right.
You've got Rebecca,
Yep.
the owner, who is obviously like she's trying to sabotage everything. And then you've got Jamie Tart,
Right.
who is the all-star but super douchey,
Yep.
very much the prima donna
Sure.
of the club.
Roy Kent.
You've got Roy Kent, who's like the old legend that is set in his ways and doesn't want to change and doesn't want to address his own kind of age,
Right.
and how the game is changing for him. So you've got a lot of different things that are happening, and you throughout that season
You've got all of England looking at him going like, what the hell?
Go away. Why are you doing here?
But yeah, he's trying to confront all of these things, which to me is also part of the success of the second season, is that in a lot of ways, he's gotten all of these people who didn't believe in him to start to believe in how he's approaching it. But then he doesn't start to believe in himself. So you have like this one, almost like 180 kind of reversal of his optimism is he's trying to get everybody else to be optimistic. And then he gets everybody else on his side in that going into the second season. Not that everybody, but he starts to get these kind of antagonistic players more on his side. And then you start to see that it's not about that. It's about like the inner turmoil of Ted Lasso. So like the optimism that he's put forth to everybody else is actually a manifestation of his own insecurities.
Right.
Which I think is fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
Is that you have this character who seems to a lot of the other characters, and maybe this is the kind of the situational irony of the dramatic irony of the thing, is like we as viewers of the show actually know more than the other characters because we can see Ted's inner thinking in some ways.
Right.
We can see him breaking down. So he's putting up a super optimistic front for everybody else, but he breaks down. And that's where you have the therapist in the season 2. She starts to attack that kind of perspective and like, Ted, sometimes things suck. And like, you're not dealing with the suck because you want to be so optimistic, but you're actually like undermining that whole thing you're trying to do. At least that's how I see it.
I mean, I guess to me it was his not wanting to admit, or I guess it's kind of like, a societal thing too, of like mental health not being at anybody's forefront.
Right.
It's always like cover that shit up, and like, man, like there's like when it comes out that he had a panic attack. At one of the points during season 2, one of the big games, Ted leaves
right
at the most pivotal point of the game because he's having a panic attack, and you've seen him have panic attacks throughout that season. Stuff's just like gotten too much to him, and he freaks out. But he blamed it on food poisoning.
Yeah,
didn't want to admit what it was, which is like it's very much the case of like something like that. And there's a really sad moment of once it's finally come out that that's actually what it was. He had a panic attack. It wasn't food poisoning, and this random dude in the street is like everybody's kind of making the point that man, if my grandpa would have had a panic attack in Normandy, we'd all be speaking German right now.
Right.
And then another dude's like, go back and have your panic attacks over there. Like, don't come here with that.
Right.
And it's like, man, like what a sad way to address an issue for a person, to be like, you sissy.
Yeah.
Tighten up.
But I read something about like the British perspective of that. And like neither of us are British.
Keep calm and carry on.
Right. Exactly. No. And it's that kind of like, I listened to a podcast where it was a British guy breaking it down and kind of talking about that. And he was like, there's a very British perspective of exactly that. Like, it's just keep going. Like in the face of it all, keep going, which is some optimism, but it's also like you're not dealing with anything. But then there's also this like very British way of like there is no pat on the back. There is no like you are doing the good thing or you are doing it well. You keep going. There's no like praise in that way.
Right.
And I know that I'm being, I'm distilling things down to a very like minute level, but that's part of it. So like that perspective, I think is a very kind of British perspective of like, no, take your feelings somewhere else.
Right. stiff upper lip,
Right.
shoulders back.
Correct.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Just keep going.
So, and I think that's really interesting in that the character is confronting that too.
Right.
Which is also an American perspective as well of like
we
feelings. We don't want to talk about those.
Yeah, bottle that up.
Yeah, but I think
masculinity be tough.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like that brings me into what I think this show does very well, especially in that second season, is healthy masculinity, and where so many things promote toxic masculinity.
Right.
To me, this, I don't know if it's intentional or not, but is a huge promoter of what I consider to be healthy masculinity in terms of Ted and how Ted deals with things. You have Jamie Tart, who is that douchey guy that you mentioned, toxic masculinity. You have
in season one,
right. You have Nate, who is not toxic masculine, but he actually kind of like starts to become that, which is interesting in season 2.
Yeah.
You have Roy Kent, who is the epitome of that like old man, like disgruntled, toxic masculinity. And you see all 3 of those characters, 4, including Ted, change in season 2, where Jamie becomes more in touch with his feelings after like kind of destroying some of that toxic masculinity within like his father.
Right.
And that relationship. You see Roy Kent develop the relationship between his niece Phoebe and his girlfriend Keely, yeah, and how he's like engaging with her. You have Ted, who's starting to like kind of open up and probe like the depths of like why he is this way, why he feels this way, and also for other people too. So to me, that second season really becomes a really cool presentation of what it is to engage in masculinity as a whole. Obviously, this is from a position as a man looking at this, and you're not seeing these like super macho dudes become like the popular ones. You're not seeing these super macho guys, the ones who are getting all of the accolades. It's real people confronting who they are and how they deal with the world, and in what I consider to be healthy ways.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think for the most part, like every character that set themselves up as a antagonist to Ted,
right,
he slowly whittles them away and provides them lessons that allow them to mature.
Exactly.
You know, for Roy Kent.
Yeah.
For Roy, you know, it was Ted seeing Nate get bullied
right
in the clubhouse and knowing that somebody needed to address it, and knew that because Roy had come in and said, "Hey, you need to fix that." He's like, "No, I don't." But somebody does.
Yep.
And you know, it was like giving him that opportunity broke the shell on Roy.
Exactly.
For Jamie, it was trying so many different times to get through to him, and it never happened because the opportunity wasn't there. So that when he left and got the opportunity to like, hey, if you're not the star here,
right,
if you make the extra pass, you'll win the game, and they do, and which is such a poetic way. Like loved that, which couldn't have like written it better.
Right.
Jamie leaves the club and comes back and is the reason why they lose and get regulated. But then in the next season, Jamie wants to go back to Richmond so much because he knows, man, I learned so much there. And like my evolution as a human, not just as an athlete, because he was already the best. He was already like great. Not a whole lot he can improve upon there, but as in terms of life, there's so much more I can get there.
Exactly.
Nate's the interesting one.
Oh, that turncoat.
Yeah. Nate is so interesting
because you have a character who is like so diminutive, so bullied, so out of the limelight. And then he is brought into that because he makes a decision that is correct. Like the dude knows a lot about football.
Yeah. And Ted recognizes that
right
at the beginning and gives him a more prominent role within the club.
Right.
It says, hey, you know a lot. I don't. So let me learn from you what you know. And I'll get you a better position than being the water boy.
Right.
And so makes him like an assistant coach type thing. And during that episode when Ted does have his panic attack, Nate is right there with a plan. The team wins, and he gets a lot of success and notoriety from it.
Right.
And kind of bolsters his ego.
His ego. And that to me, like that is part of what this show is about. It's about the complexity of character and the complexity of humans as a whole.
Yeah.
Is that you have Ted who understands like this kind of athletic dude is primarily because that's who he's dealing with.
Right.
And he is a good coach and he understands this perspective and he's trying to give someone else a little bit better. And then he actually turns them into the thing that he doesn't want in terms of Nate. I'm not saying like he is the one who turned Nate into this like guy who Nate eventually goes and works for a rival team, the rival team.
Yeah. The last few seconds of the last episode.
Yeah.
We realized that. But like that the whole second season, there's a really large evolution of Nate.
Yeah. Yep.
I didn't see it coming.
Right.
Like I saw him changing. Like early on in the season,
see hints of it.
Early on in the season, there's an episode that deals with Nate wanting to take his parents to a dinner for their anniversary.
Yeah.
And he wants a specific table
I want
at the
window
restaurant.
seat.
And they wouldn't give it to him. And eventually through the events of the episode, he's able to kind of like build up his assertiveness and he gets the table for his parents. And it works out for him. And you think he's like, again, he's taking a step up. He's evolving. He's becoming a better version of himself.
Which is a positive.
Yeah. And you think that's the trajectory until then later on, pretty late in the season, there's an episode where he needs to go get a new suit and Keeley takes him and he's having this great day, this great experience with her. And then he tries to kiss her.
Yep.
And he's immediately embarrassed by what he did and regrets it. And what was so strange, though, is he went into the dressing room to take the suit off, and he spits on himself in the mirror.
Yep.
And I was, like, so shocked by that of, like, I understand being, like, disappointed in yourself, but it was his, like, active, like, anger and, like, frustration, I guess, with himself, that he was, like, so disgusted by himself that he did that, that he spit on himself, that I was just like, whoa,
yeah,
what is that?
Which to me goes back to that, like the deep-seated negative characteristics of the individual. Like you can't, and I think that like for Ted Lasso as a character, he recognizes the good in people, but there is some really dark aspects of who we are as individuals that like maybe you can't fix. I think that's part of it too, of like this almost what I'm going to say is like semi-toxic optimism of the first season of like, no, it's all going to be okay. Everything can be taken care of. And yet you get to the end of the second season and you're like, oh, wait, everything's not all good. Things can go bad. Things can go wrong. And I think that that's what is part of the success of the show too, is that you're not just dealing with this plucky character who can get things done based on optimism alone. You're dealing with so many like rudimentary human emotions that's what people are drawn to. And even in this, like, wow, you've changed so much for the better as a character, and you still don't like yourself. You're still like your bravado this character you've adopted in terms of Nate. Your bravado has gotten you to a point where like you're still so disgusted with yourself that you would spit on yourself in the mirror. And
well,
like,
and
I
that was like
understand
that was like 2 episodes from like the final,
right?
And then in the final episode, like Ted finally confronts him. Like so, it comes out that Nate has leaked the story of Ted having
the panic
attacks. Ted finally addresses him like, man, what's wrong? Like, what's going on? Why are you so mad? And like, Nate unloads on him, and says like, you're a piece of shit. You need to go home. Like,
all of my decisions got you here. You did all the limelight.
Yeah, and it really was like shocking of just like I don't understand where this is going. Like, this guy has so positively affected you, and he starts the frustration with like, you make everybody feel so special and liked, and then he words it as like, but then at some point in time I wasn't that special to you anymore,
right?
And I did my best to like to get myself back to that position for you, which I don't really see that correlation, but like it's like I kind of understand it in his perspective. I didn't see it in the season,
right?
And maybe it requires like a second viewing. Maybe it's like more subtle.
Yeah, you see
that
those
if you
things.
go back and you kind of notice Nate being more frustrated, but like I don't know, like he's one of the what do they call him, the Diamond Dogs,
right?
Like I just don't see, like, it's not like he was ever dismissed like that for him to really be that upset. It's the same thing. I feel like it's a reflection of like the same thing Jamie had to go through.
Yes. Yeah.
Of wanting the glory, wanting to be the boss, wanting to be the
Exactly.
best.
It's the perspective of
And
leadership.
I need to leave and go accomplish that, so that when he does, I'm sure season 3 is going to be some sort of a realization of that.
Right.
Maybe not. Maybe that's just, unfortunately, Nate's character arc is to just be the villain.
And I think that's like a commentary on leadership as a whole, in terms of like, as a leader, you are only legitimately good as those who you are helping to lead. But that's also like the difference between like a boss and a leader. A leader's like, let's do these things together. A boss is like, you're going to go do these things, and I'm going to get the credit. And I don't think Nate sees the difference there. And I know there's a lot to unpack there that we just don't have time for right now. But like, it's that Ted Lasso is a good coach and a good leader.
Right.
And yes, the accolades will fall on him, but it's only because he had the forethought and the foresight to say like, no, this guy knows some shit. Like, yeah, he's cleaning the kits. He's the one who's taking care of the field. That's absolutely one thing, but he knows some stuff. That's what a good leader does. And Nate doesn't recognize that.
Right.
And maybe you're right. Maybe in the 3rd season, there's going to be that recognition of like, sure, but all of this lands on me. Like, I want these decisions, or I want to be able to make these decisions, but it all lands on me.
Well, that was such a great point too, of Nate's got that strategy.
Right.
We're going to use that and it's going to work. And then it's not working.
Right.
They're losing. And Ted's like, well, let's put it to the guys. Do we stick with this, or do we switch and we go back to what we were doing?
Right.
And they all say, no, let's stick with it. But Nate still puts that on Ted.
Right.
Of like, you're sticking with it because it's going to fail, and then that's going to reflect on me. It's like, it's such a narcissistic way of viewing everything.
Correct.
Everything is coming back to me. If we succeed, it's because of me. If we fail, it's going to be because of me.
But that, to me, like, as a viewer, that's not the leadership style of Ted, but that's what the individual will see. The individual will see, like, in terms of Nate.
Right. Because that's what narcissism is.
Absolutely. It's like, this thing is my fault.
Or this thing is great because of me.
Correct. Exactly. Which brings me to, I think, one of my favorite characters in the entire series, or in both series so far, and that's Coach Beard.
Yeah, Beard's fantastic.
Beard is fantastic.
Yeah.
Even though, like, and he's not without his problems. Obviously, he has woman problems that you see an entire episode, which is, I think it's a filler episode, but I think it's good.
I think it's fantastic. It's such a cool look into this character. Like, and I think any great series does that.
Yeah.
Like they take that side character that's just kind of there as like comedy relief,
right?
And we build this like epic
episode
story,
sure,
around it.
But I think like that's what makes Coach Beard, who is the second in command, if you will.
Yeah,
I would
he
even
came with Ted.
Correct. Yeah, he came with Ted from the school in Arkansas.
Yeah, Kansas.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
Well, I went
community college in
Kansas, not Arkansas, Kansas, which is basically the same state.
Yeah, they're right there together.
Sorry, Arkansas and Kansas, we love you. But he has this like understanding, like they're so simpatico, even though like Beard is willing to push Ted, Beard is willing to question Ted. I mean, there's this beautiful scene. I think it's either towards the end of season 1 or it's in season 2 where like there's a huge loss and Beard's like, no, fuck you, gives him the bird and walks away. And Ted's like, wrong bird or something. I forget what he says. They're talking about building these things bird by bird, which is a kind of an obscure reference to Anne Lamont's father telling her brother like to write a book report on birds, and you have to write it bird by bird. That's what that's from. And that's a line that's actually said multiple times, but it's about writing.
Right.
This is kind of a side tangent, but I love that perspective. And he says something like,
they do that in so many ways.
Yeah, like we've
throughout
got
the whole series. There's so many small little tangents,
yeah,
and like little one-liners that are a reference to this thing over here,
right? That they never explain.
It's gold.
Yeah,
but they never linger on it. It's just bam, next thing.
But that's what he tells him. He's like, he says something like bird by bird, coach, and Beard flicks him off. Sets up that night of Beard going out, and like that whole kind of filler episode. That's where that starts basically.
Right.
But it also tells me that like Coach Beard is willing to also disagree with Ted and willing to like, no, this thing, like, it's not working out.
He's willing to call him out in the right moment.
Correct.
When it's appropriate.
And
but because they're so in sync
Right.
with each other's thoughts that like they finish each other's sentences.
Yeah.
They throw in the punchline to each other's tee up on the joke.
Yeah.
That it's such a great friendship that they've got. But when it's important and when it needs to be done, yeah.
Well, and I think
he'll call you out.
But that is so what the relationship Nate doesn't understand is that Beard will check Ted Lasso, but in a very intimate, like, no, like, this thing is wrong. He won't, at least in terms of what we've seen so far, it's not like he's going to question him in this like big situation where like, no, fuck you, Ted. This is not the way to do it. He will do it in that way of like good friend of like, I recognize you're the face right now and you're going to make a decision, but then we're going to have a conversation afterward. It's that. And to me, that goes back to that healthy masculinity of Coach Beard realizes the time to have those conversations is not in the heat of the moment. It's either before or after those moments. And to me, that's what makes that character so successful.
I mean, I agree. I think Beard is fantastic in just their friendship is so they understand each other so well.
Exactly.
And like, I mean, hell, they've both flown to England together. Who knows how long they've known each other? But they're so in sync that they know when to adjust the other.
That's exactly it.
You know,
you said it better.
It's fantastic. I
see you in my dreams.
Yeah, tell me to do this or whatever it was. Okay, got you.
I got you, Coach.
like the funniest thing was the wigwam and a teepee. Yeah. Like, God, we laughed about that for so long. It's a wigwam and a teepee in here. What? It's 2 tents. Boom. Like, and they like that, you know, that's just so perfect.
Yeah.
Like, just that they can like match each other for that.
Yeah. And it's like y'all's humor is exactly the same.
Yeah.
In the best way
y'all
possible.
just like, y'all are already like the wavelengths are so in sync that it's like ridiculous. So that when the other one's wavelength is just a little bit off, you recognize it. And that there's a little tweak that needs to happen there, and I got you to get you back in rhythm.
Exactly.
One of my favorite side characters is Higgins.
Higgins, so good.
Higgins is like just like the moral core of the whole thing.
Right.
Of like, you know, the first season, he's always there kind of like prodding Rebecca like, hey, you're really missing something special that's happening. And he's doing his best to help her see it.
Right.
And, you know, eventually she does. The one that really got me for Higgins was the Christmas episode.
Oh, yeah. Where he invites all the guys over.
He has the whole team, all the players who don't have a family to spend it with. He invites them over to his family, and it's just such a beautiful, like,
it really is.
That whole episode was just so nice and so well done. But
heartwarming, yeah.
He's such a great, like, he's funny as hell, but he's just like that warm center that just like whenever you need that hug, man. Just, you go in there and like, Higgins. I love you, man. So
you mentioned kind of like one-liners. Can I bring up some one-liners for you? Mm-hmm.
This
is actually an article from People magazine, Kyle.
Wow.
Did you ever think Did you ever think that we would mention People?
Well, I mean, aside from like, you know, who was it? Chris Evans.
Sexiest man alive?
Yeah. That's my best buddy. Waited on him last Thanksgiving.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You did? Yeah. He's a listener of the show.
Yeah, he would be. Like, I gave him the Drep and Stone sticker that day.
Listen to this, Chris.
He's on the check. There you go, sir. I'll sit there. And if you scan the barcode there, it'll take you to a great podcast.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I want to throw out, there are 21 of these. I'm going to just pick a couple.
Okay.
Because I freaking like the one-liners in Ted Lasso are so great.
Yeah.
All right, here's one. Taking on a challenge is a lot like riding a horse, isn't it? If you're comfortable while you're doing it, you're probably doing it wrong.
Right. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
And that's exactly it. All right, I'm giving you another one. I always thought tea was going to taste a lot like hot brown water. And you know what? I was right. If that's a joke, I love it. If not, can't wait to unpack that with you later. You know what the happiest animal is on Earth? It's a goldfish.
Yeah.
You know why? It's got a 10-second memory. Sam, be a goldfish.
Be a goldfish.
Yeah. If the internet has taught us anything, it's that sometimes it's easier to speak our minds anonymously. I feel like we fell out of the lucky tree and hit every branch on the way down, and ended up in a pool of cash and Sour Patch Kids. If you care about someone and you got a little love in your heart, there ain't nothing you can't get through together.
Cheesy.
Ice cream.
Out of context, that one sucks.
Yeah, that one sucks. Ice cream is the best. It's kind of like seeing Billy Joel perform live. Never disappoints.
Love it. Yeah, we laughed out loud at that one.
This one's good. If God would have wanted games to end in a tie, she wouldn't have invented numbers. I love that on so many levels.
Man.
Like, oh, God. I got two more for you.
Okay.
Our goal is to go out like Willie Nelson on a high. Last one. This woman is strong, confident, and powerful. Boss, I tell you, I'd hate to see you and Michelle Obama arm wrestle, but I wouldn't be able to take my eyes off it neither. Agreed. It's so good. Like, and that to me is like, what is the comedic element of the show is that you have these good one-liners that are also meaningful in context, but also like funny out of context, but they present some version of wisdom within how he's exploring these things. And I think that's great. That's what that's what draws people to that character is these like small aphorisms, these kind of like little witticisms, one-liners that you're like, interesting.
Oh, yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. I can't tell you how much time I've spent thinking about, and I had actually seen this as a clip on YouTube, unfortunately, before I watched it in the context of the show. But at the end of season 1, there's a scene in the pub between Ted and Rebecca's ex-husband, who formerly owned the club.
Right.
They have a darts contest, and Ted sets him up beautifully.
Yeah.
And
like Pool Shark sets him up.
Yeah. And you can go see the scene because it's gorgeous on YouTube or wherever. But Ted has this point of explaining to him, it'd be fantastic if the world would be more, and it was a quote from Walt Whitman, I believe.
I think so.
About people should be less judgmental and more curious. And I've spent so much time thinking about that.
Yeah.
And like he does such a great job of like giving it context within the show of, be more curious. Don't be so judgmental. Don't look at me and be so judgmental of me and my situation. Be more curious.
Because the guy is basically like I'm going to destroy you in darts. Like I'm going to, like, you are not going to be a good dart player.
He's trying to set Ted up just like Ted is setting him up.
Correct.
Because he's got his own private little darts. He pulls out his own personal darts to use. And he's like, oh, son of a gun, forgot I had these.
Yeah.
And then Ted's also like, oh, shit, I forgot I'm left-handed. This is going to be fun.
Exactly. The point is the guy, Rupert, I think his name is.
Yeah.
He never asked Ted, have you played darts before? Right. And that's the basis of that. Like, you should have been more curious as to who I was.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you've judged me on the setting.
Right.
And you've pegged me as a loser, and you've just immediately made that judgment instead of being curious of who I am and what I'm capable of, that you've already made a judgment on me.
Right.
And that's such a beautiful thing. And like,
yeah. And I think like that's, to me, that is the moral underpinnings of the show that make it really good and better than like a normal sitcom.
Right.
Because it's not just funny. It's not just, acerbic in certain ways. It is like there's this moral kind of lesson that you're learning along with these characters that I find just that's what makes it good.
Yeah. And and that's like the takeaway of, man, if the world could take away judgment and just be more curious, try to understand more.
Right.
Instead of making judgments and that being the end all be all to any given situation of like, man, you did a shitty thing right there. I hate you for that.
Yeah.
Well, why did you do the shitty thing? Let's try to understand that. Oh, there might be a solution there, or at least now I have the understanding of what made you do that. So now I can maybe adjust the way that I treat you or act to you instead of it just being, we're done.
Exactly.
Exactly. Beautiful, beautiful little sentiment.
I agree. Well, on that note, you got anything else?
Back to the whiskey.
Sure.
I think this is a quintessential, and I was saving it hoping that it would be.
Yeah.
Just from what I had like heard of other people's takes on it.
Uh-huh.
I think this is a perfect like holiday whiskey.
I agree.
Like that
completely.
That sweetness on the sherry.
Yep.
It's very, just it makes you think like red berries and holidays.
It really
and, like,
does.
It fits the bill.
And this would be great around the fire. This would be great around, dinner table, just kind of hanging out,
Yep.
talking with friends. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what I find interesting about that is that it's such a high proof, and yet it checks all of those boxes. Because sometimes like you get a high proof and like, nope, it's challenging. I think that it can be challenging for some people, but I think like if you are somebody who is interested in whiskey, like this is a great high proof entry bottle.
Yep.
I quite like it. And yeah, this is a good find.
Yep.
I'm going to be a little sad when that bottle goes.
Yeah, it probably won't. It's going to go quick.
Well, we want to know what you think about the Abelour A'bunadh. We also want to know, what do you think about Ted Lasso?
Yeah. Who's your favorite character?
And why is it Coach Beard? No, who is your favorite character? And honestly, like, I want to know, what character do you like to hate? I think that there's some interesting characters in here. Characters with redemptive arcs that like you might still not like.
Yeah. I've genuinely kind of grown to enjoy Jamie Tart.
Jamie Tart. Jamie. Or for Kent, he's here. He's there. He's every fucking
where.
So good.
Roy Kent.
Well, you can get in touch with us through email. It's drippingstone@gmail.com. You can also get in touch with us through social media.
It's always one word, Dripping Stone. Come find us, like us, share a thing, like a thing, laugh at a thing. A lot of good things.
Also, you can support the podcast through our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/drepandstone.
Indeed.
We got a lot of good things going on there, Kyle, especially as we're getting, building that community a little bit more, adding new stuff.
Trying
every
new
week.
things. Yeah. It's always there first.
Absolutely.
Most things.
Most things. You can also support the podcast by rating Dripping Stone wherever it is you find great podcasts like this one. And finally, you can support the podcast as you go out shopping for your holiday wares. Just tell someone. Tell someone about Dripping Stone.
Absolutely.
Like, hey.
Share the good word.
Yeah.
Hey.
You're buying that Christmas ornament?
Yeah. I know the gift that you've got for that person you think is the right gift, but hey, give them the gift of entertainment and let them know about Dripping Stone.
Correct. That's
beat
it. I got nothing else. That is the definitive way.
Cannot beat it.
Nope.
It's the
You
gift
cannot.
that keeps on giving.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, buddy.
May your glass overflow.
Just like a Jelly of the Month Club. And your ass never show. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers. Hi there.
Hey.
What you doing? That's not a thing we've ever done.
It got emotional rather quickly.
Made it better?
It made it a lot better.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Just That's a nice map.
Maybe it's Dunning-Kruger. I think I could. Like I'm confident.
I know I couldn't. I know I couldn't. That's what I'm
nothing.
saying though. I wanted like
Final thoughts on the bottle. Nope. Just kidding. I'll do that at the end.
okay.
I'm glad we can share this, by the way.
Yeah. Agreed. I feel like a new man. Like that was amazing.
But I would even say, like, in England, like, to call
But
someone...
with Twitter the way it is nowadays, we can say what we want. That's good.
You did the thing.
Thank you, kid. I can die now.
Please don't.
I've done my part.
That's the gift that keeps on giving, Clark.